Good afternoon, everybody. We're here on a Friday, and I'm very, very glad it's a Friday. I'm pretty sure I said this last week, but for whatever reason, today's just, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of dragging. Like, I don't know, you have those days you're sitting in work and you're just looking at the clock and you're like, all right, come on, let's go. And then you get involved and you're doing something and you finish up said something and you look over and it's only been like 15 minutes and you're like, it's just been one of those days. And not that it's a work thing. It's just a thing. I don't know. Today's just gone by slow. But we here, and I'm gonna talk some Eagles for a bit. It's 2:38, and I have to be back in at 3. So, well, this will be kind of short. So I want to talk Nick Sirianni briefly, because I haven't yet, and I keep telling you guys I'm going to do that. Um, and honestly, I don't even have a whole lot to say because I don't know anything about him. I'm not sure. I'm sure I had heard his name before, but I know nothing about him. I know nothing about his head coaching ability, his play calling ability. I know he was the OC for the Indianapolis Colts, and you know what? The Colts offense was pretty good. But I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Frank Reich call those plays in Indy? So I've always wondered that, how much. What's the difference in hiring an offensive coordinator that calls plays versus one that doesn't call plays as your head coach? And I don't really know. Um, I've seen I've seen a list of a bunch of his his OC, his DC, uh, some of his positions coaches, but I don't know anything about any of them either. I think the defensive coordinator, he came over from Indianapolis too, didn't he? I think there were actually a couple of his coaches that came over from Indy, which makes sense. I mean, it's guys that he's worked with and he's familiar with. Um, I don't know if anybody stayed on from Philly's last regime. Did we keep Stoutland? He'd be the only one I'd be pretty upset if we lost Jeff Stoutland. But aside from that, I don't really care. Um, I don't necessarily see. I can't sit here and say, "Oh my God, I love the Nick Sirianni hiring." But by the same token, I'm also not going to sit here and say I hate the Nick Sirianni hiring. I don't know. I never seen him coach. Um, would he have been my first choice? No, I'd have. Well, apparently they went after Brian Daboll, and he said he didn't want the Eagles job, which, whatever. I'm not necessarily saying I sit here and blame him. But if I'm Brian Daboll, personally, I'm not sure I want a head coaching job at this point. And I'm sure you do, because I'm sure it pays more and it's more clout and it's more. But if I'm Brian Daboll, man, I'm thinking I want to try and run that back with Buffalo, because I feel like that team's got Super Bowl talent. So I mean, if I'm Brian Daboll, I kind of want to stay in Buffalo and see if, let's see if we can try this again. Um. So, like I said, I can't necessarily strike on Sirianni or his people too much, because I don't necessarily love him or hate him, because I don't know the first thing about him. So, with that being said, I wanted to touch on another thing or two. I think the Eric Bieniemy thing, I already hit on that. I was like, oh, I would talk about that, but I already talked about that, I think, in the video from Monday. I guess it would have been Monday. But I do want to touch on the Deuce Staley thing, and this is kind of old news at this point, but I never really had a chance to touch on it. I know a lot of the players liked him, and from everything I've read, everything I understand, he seems like a great guy and a great coach, and he seems like he would be a good players coach. Does that qualify him as a head coach? I'm not sure it does. Does the players like you mean you're going to be a good head coach? I don't know. Is it enough to jump out at a guy? He interviewed with Jeff, so I don't know. There must have been something there that he didn't like, or something that he liked better in Sirianni. And people say, I personally think the Eagles were just looking to, I don't think they were going to hire Deuce anyway, because if I'm the Eagles, my idea is just strike everything, the whole coaching tree. I'm not necessarily sure I just want to promote somebody in-house. I'm thinking I want wholesale, bring in new people from new places and new organizations. I don't know, because I feel like the coaching had just, even like with Doug and even like with Schwartz and with Press Taylor, I just felt like things had grown stale. And people, some on Twitter, some on Facebook, some players were talking about how, oh, Deuce Staley can be this great head coach, and Deuce Staley can have all these accomplishments, and Deuce Staley's going to do this and this and this, and this is why he'd be so great. He got picked up by the Lions doing the exact same job he did for Philadelphia. It's not even like he went somewhere and got a promotion. It's the same exact title. It's running backs coach and assistant head coach for Detroit. I mean, he's doing the same job for what I would argue is a more dysfunctional organization. So, if he's this great coaching talent, why nobody else look at him? I mean, it'd be different. And people are talking about, oh my God, it was such a mistake to let Deuce Staley go. Oh my God, I don't know how our players and our team are going to run without Deuce Staley. He's doing the exact same job. Like, if he had gotten a promotion somewhere, like if he went out and got a head coaching job, or even an offensive coordinator job somewhere, and he was calling plays, and his team's offense did great next year, then I'd be a little upset about losing him. Am I tragically upset about losing him this year? No, I'm not. He's the running backs coach. Yeah, he's been very good at it. And look, and I know I'm bragging on a positions coach, but I'm a staunch defender for keeping Jeff Stoutland. That's because our offensive line, not this year because it was injured, we've had a very, very strong offensive line for very many years. Actually, I can't say very many years, but you know what I'm saying. Our running backs weren't that good this year. Our running backs weren't all that great last year. They were good the year of the Super Bowl, but I put part of that on the offensive line being a freaking outstandingly good. And then you go back to the year before that, and I don't know how long Deuce Staley's been here, but we've never had what I would consider a tremendous run game outside of the Super Bowl year. And don't get me wrong, Peterson didn't like calling run plays all that much, and we haven't exactly had crazy good running backs, but our running game it's just not that great, especially this year. This year the offensive line was banged up, so they probably weren't getting as much push up front, but would I have been more upset if our run game was like top of the league? Yeah, but I don't know. Some people on Facebook and Twitter, man, they were talking like this team was going to fall apart because we let go of Deuce Staley and how it was such a big mistake. I'm just not seeing. If Jeff Stoutland was let go, and he might have been, I don't know. Would I be a little upset? Yeah, I guess. Would I be crying about it? No, not really. There's other offensive line coaches out there, So, yeah, I wanted to hit that 248. The only other thing I'll say about head coaches is I do think the Nick Saleh hiring for, I'm sorry, not Nick, Robert Saleh hiring for the Jets. I think that could be potentially very interesting. And I might have said this in a video once already, but they've got some half-decent pieces on defense. I don't know what this means for Sam Darnold, but I think Saleh, in the long run, I think he'll be very good for that organization. Now, on to the topic that everybody seems to want to talk about. I'll wrap up with this last few minutes here. The Carson Wentz trade, or lack thereof. I'm still really not sold on the idea of getting rid of Carson Wentz from a football perspective, because I still think he has potential to be a really good quarterback. I've seen what he is capable of, and I'm not chomping at the bit to get rid of that. Now, with that being said, from a him perspective, I feel like it makes sense. Wentz his confidence is, I'm sure, at an all-time low. I think a lot of his problems, are mental. It's mental issues at this point. I mean, how would you feel? You come in, you're the franchise quarterback for an organization that hasn't really had a franchise quarterback in 10 years. I'm going back to McNabb. As much as I liked Vic, he was past his prime. He wasn't a franchise quarterback. He was good while he was here, but So you're the franchise quarterback of a fan base and a team and a city that hasn't had one in 10 years. You come in, your rookie year, you know what, you get off to a really good start, but then the league adapts a little bit, kind of figures you out, you have some injuries, and the whole team kind of just falls apart at the seam. All right. Okay. Your second year, you come out, and you're freaking completely different story. You are on fire. The team is super good. Your coach is aggressive. Your GM is bringing in people for you, bringing in Alshon Jeffrey, make a trade midseason for Jay Ajayi. Your GM is bringing in lots of weapons to help you. Your coach is aggressive. Your offensive line is protecting you near perfect. Your run game's working. Your receivers are playing well. Your slot guys finally learned how to catch a ball. You've got this massive winning record. You're leading the NFC. You're killing your division. You're going out to LA, and you're in this big back-and-forth battle with the Rams, who also have a super good offense, and you tear your ACL on a freak play. You say, fuck it, stand back up, play a few more downs, and on a fourth down, on a torn ACL, you'll launch a touchdown pass. And then the coaches and the medical staff are like, all right, come here, we're bringing you back. Your backup comes in, Nick Foles, comes in, finishes the game. We win the game, we win the division. All right. You find out about the ACL tear. You know your season's done. Your backup goes on, plays really well in the playoffs, wins the Super Bowl. Boom. Immortal legend in the city of Philadelphia forever. The next year, you come back a few games in, off your ACL tear. The team kind of struggles. Good, not great. Super Bowl hangover. Teams are putting all their effort in against you. Then you get hurt again. Back injury. Medical staff pulls you out. Your backup comes back in. Your backup leads your team to the Super Bowl, including a freaking great performance against the Houston Texans. You go into the playoffs. You end up losing. The team ends up losing in painful fashion to the Saints. Next year, Foles is gone. Big quarterback controversy, both from the fan base and in the locker room. And you know that. You can't not know that. And that's got to be wearing on your mind, on your conscience, on your confidence. The organization says, you know what? You're our guy. Foles is gone. So Foles is gone. You're playing well. Your team's playing pretty well. Not great. Not like 2017. But you're doing all right, considering you have absolutely jack shit around you. Injured offensive line. Your running backs aren't so good. Your receivers, by midway through the season, you're literally throwing to practice squad guys that nobody's ever heard the name of. By the end of the season, you're throwing to other teams' practice squad guys who you've known for less than a week. You beat Dallas. You go on, win the division, make the playoffs. Even though your offense is literal garbage, you make the playoffs anyway. Then, in the playoff game against the Seahawks, you get banged in the head, and they take you out with a concussion because Clowney basically jumped on top of you and hit you helmet to helmet. Then the offseason rolls around, and your team goes into the draft and burns a fairly good, I'll call it a fairly good pick, a second-round pick, when your team and your offense has holes everywhere that they could fill. And your team burns a second-round pick on a quarterback. Which, what are you thinking? If you're, do you want to play there? I don't think I do. And then midway through the season, yeah, you're having a rough year. But you know what? The whole team is having a rough year. The Eagles sucked this year. They were brutal. And I'm including Wentz in that. He was terrible. They throw in your backup quarterback, and he plays okay. He was all right. And now all of a sudden, you're on the bench. Your teammates are talking about how trash you are, and half the fan base is talking about Jalen Hurts like he's some effing godsend for some reason. Would you want to play in Philadelphia? I wouldn't. I'd be asking for a trade too. Get me the hell out of here. My GM, my front office literally drafted their own quarterback controversy. It's all their fault. I don't want to play here. No, get me the hell out of here. Send me somewhere where I don't have to deal with all this bullshit. I do not blame him one bit. Not at all. With that being said, I have to go clock in a few minutes. If and when the Wentz trade happens, I'll be sure to talk about it. I won't be into work Monday, so you probably won't hear from me because it's a holiday and I have off. So I'll probably be back next Friday. Don't know what I'll talk about yet, but we'll have a chat. Peace out. Enjoy your weekend.